There are pains so intense they break any known medical scale. Pains unlike anything the human body should have to endure. How can a single nerve cause suffering described as worse than torture? Why are there people who come to lose the will to live because of pain? And most unsettling, what if one of these pains can appear without warning? Stay, because what you are about to hear is not an exaggeration, it is pure biology. There are areas of the body where pain is not just felt, it takes over everything. The head and senses are not designed to withstand extreme aggression, and when something fails there, the experience becomes unbearable. One of the best-known examples is the cluster headache. Those who suffer from it describe it as a constant explosion behind the eye, a burning pressure that gives no truce. It is not a localized pain. It appears in cycles, several times a day, for weeks or even months. The attacks can last between 15 minutes and 3 hours, but the intensity is so high that many people cannot stay still. They walk, they rock, they scream. Some doctors have called it the suicide pain because of the despair it causes. Unlike a common migraine, traditional painkillers hardly work. The pain breaks through any barrier, and the cruelest part is its unpredictability. It can wake a person in the middle of the night, without warning, without apparent cause. Another pain that directly attacks the senses is corneal abrasion. The cornea is one of the areas with the highest concentration of nerve endings in the human body. A simple scratch, a speck of dust, or a fingernail can cause disproportionate pain. Blinking becomes torture. Light becomes unbearable. The constant sensation is that of having an object stuck in the eye, even when there is nothing there. What is most disturbing is that, even if the injury is small, the brain interprets the damage as an extreme threat. Both cases show the same reality. When pain occurs in organs designed to process vital information, the nervous system enters a state of total alarm. There is no way to ignore it. No distraction works. The head and the senses do not allow for negotiation with pain. They demand immediate attention. That is why these pains do not just affect the body. They break sleep, concentration, emotional stability. Living with them means always waiting for the next attack. And when pain dominates perception, everything else disappears. There are pains that cannot be seen. They leave no immediate external marks, but from the inside they destroy everything. One of the most feared is testicular torsion. It occurs when the spermatic cord twists and cuts off blood flow. The pain appears suddenly, intensely, and is impossible to ignore. It does not warn. It does not progress little by little. It explodes. Many people describe the sensation as a tearing pressure that radiates through the abdomen and back. The body panics. Nausea, vomiting, and dizziness appear almost immediately. But the pain is not the only problem. Testicular torsion is a medical emergency. If not treated within a few hours, the tissue begins to die. The body loses a part of itself while the person is still conscious of the suffering. Something similar happens with kidney stones. Small stones that form inside the kidneys and must pass through extremely narrow ducts to leave the body. Each movement of the stone scrapes, presses, and blocks. The pain does not remain in a single point. It moves. It hits the lower back, the abdomen, and the groin. It can last minutes or extend for hours, even days. Unlike other pains, this one allows no rest. Changing positions does not help. Lying down does not relieve it. The body finds no way to escape. In many cases, the pain is so intense that people end up in the emergency room without being able to speak clearly. Breathing accelerates, the body sweats. The mind can only think of one thing, that it ends. These internal pains have something in common. They attack vital systems, they interrupt basic functions of the organism, and they do it without warning. There is no time to prepare. There is no margin to resist little by little. When pain is born from within, the entire body enters a crisis. Every second stretches out. Every movement worsens the situation. And in those moments, the idea of enduring the pain ceases to exist. Only surviving it remains. There is a type of pain that humanity has accepted as inevitable, a pain associated with the creation of life, but one that is rarely described in all its harshness. Childbirth is one of the most intense pains the human body can experience. For hours and even days, the uterus contracts with extraordinary force to allow for birth. Each contraction is not just muscular pressure, it is a nerve signal that shoots through the back, pelvis, and abdomen at the same time. Many women describe the pain as a wave that gives no truce. It appears, it increases, it explodes, and it starts again. The body stretches beyond its natural limits. Tissues that were never designed to separate do so under extreme pressure. The sensation is not localized in a single point. It expands, dominating all perception. But the pain of childbirth does not necessarily end when the baby is born. For many women, the physical and emotional after effects remain. Tears, nerve injuries, chronic pain in the back or pelvis. In some cases, the memory of the pain is engraved with an intensity that is hard to explain. The most impactful thing is that, despite its magnitude, this pain has been historically minimized, normalized, silenced. For centuries, it was assumed to be suffering that had to be endured without question. However, from a neurological point of view, childbirth activates some of the same mechanisms as extreme pain from physical trauma. The body enters a limit state, breathing is altered, the perception of time is distorted, the mind searches for any way to resist. And even so, millions of women go through this pain and continue ahead. Not because it is easy, but because there is no other option. Childbirth demonstrates an uncomfortable truth. Some of the most intense pains that exist do not come from a disease or an accident, but from natural processes that push the human body to its maximum point of tolerance. Creating life has a price, and that price is felt in every nerve. When the body suffers serious damage, pain stops being a signal and becomes a total experience. No thought occurs that does not pass through it. No second exists that is not marked by its presence. Third-degree burns represent one of the most devastating physical traumas that exist. Unlike superficial burns, these destroy deep layers of the skin, nerve endings, and muscle tissue. In some cases, the initial pain is so intense that the nervous system goes into shock. In others, the momentary absence of pain is even more dangerous because it hides the real magnitude of the damage. As the hours pass, the suffering becomes constant. Every movement of the body exposes damaged tissues. Every breath can cause an unbearable sting. The healing process is long, painful, and full of complications. Something similar happens with a femur fracture, the largest and strongest bone in the human body. Breaking it requires extreme force, and when it happens, the pain is immediate and overwhelming. The leg loses stability, the muscles contract violently, internal bleeding can be severe. The body enters a state of emergency. Even with quick medical attention, the process does not end there. Prolonged immobilization, surgeries, and rehabilitation turn the pain into a constant presence for months. The trauma is not just physical, but also psychological. These extreme damages have something in common. They do not just break tissues, they break the sense of bodily safety. After such an injury, the body is no longer perceived as reliable. Every movement generates fear. Every small pain reminds one of how fragile the human structure is. The physical damage leaves visible and invisible marks. And although the body can heal, the memory of the pain remains. Because there are pains that are not forgotten. One only learns to carry them. Not all the most intense pains begin with a great impact. Some are born from something apparently insignificant, small, easy to ignore. The dental abscess is one of the clearest examples. At the beginning, it may seem like a mild discomfort, a passing sensitivity, but when the infection progresses, the pain transforms into something completely different. Inside the tooth, the nerve becomes trapped in a closed space. The pressure increases. The inflammation has nowhere to expand. Every heartbeat pushes the pain with more force. The result is a throbbing, constant sensation that radiates toward the jaw, the ear, and the head. Sleep becomes almost impossible. Talking hurts. Eating hurts. Even breathing through the mouth can trigger an unbearable sting. The most dangerous thing is that this pain does not only affect the tooth. If the infection is not treated, it can spread to the jaw, the neck, and even the bloodstream. In extreme cases, it becomes a threat to life. Many people try to endure it. They delay the visit to the dentist. They seek temporary relief with painkillers that hardly work. But the pain does not negotiate. It increases. This type of suffering is especially cruel because it does not seem serious from the outside. There are no visible wounds. There is no obvious bleeding, only a person trapped in a pain that gives no rest. The dental abscess demonstrates something unsettling. The size of the problem does not determine the intensity of the pain. A small damage in the wrong place can surpass much larger injuries. Furthermore, this pain slowly wears you down. It does not hit all at once. It settles in. It consumes the energy. It breaks the concentration. With the passage of the days, the mind becomes as vulnerable as the body. The patience disappears. The desperation grows. Sometimes what destroys the most is not the pain that arrives suddenly, but that which seems minor, but never goes away. Pain under normal conditions has a clear purpose: to warn, to protect, to force the body to stop. But there are situations in which that system stops working correctly. And when it occurs, the pain no longer fulfills a useful function. It becomes constant, disproportionate, uncontrollable. Complex regional pain syndrome, known as CRPS, is one of the most extreme examples. It can appear after an apparently minor injury, a sprain, a small fracture, a routine surgery. The initial damage heals, but the pain does not disappear. On the contrary, it intensifies. The affected area begins to burn. The skin becomes extremely sensitive to touch. Changes in temperature, light pressure, or even the friction of clothing can trigger intense pain. The brain interprets normal signals as grave threats. With time, the pain is no longer tied to the original damage. The nervous system enters a state of permanent alarm. The nerves send erroneous signals again and again, without rest. The body changes. The skin can acquire a different color. The inflammation appears and disappears without a clear pattern. The muscles weaken. The joints lose mobility. The most devastating thing is that there is no definitive cure. The treatments seek to reduce the pain, but they rarely eliminate it completely. Many people live for years trapped in this condition. The impact is not only physical, it is mental, emotional, social. The constant pain alters sleep. It deteriorates concentration. It isolates. It turns simple activities into daily challenges. CRPS demonstrates an unsettling reality. The most intense pain does not always come from the most serious damage. Sometimes it arises when the system itself in charge of protecting us goes out of control. In those cases, the body stops being an ally. It becomes a permanent source of suffering. And when the pain no longer has a clear cause that can be eliminated, the fight is not against an injury, but against the nervous system itself. There is a pain that many doctors consider the most intense a human being can experience. It does not originate in a muscle, nor in a bone, nor in an internal organ. It is born from a single nerve. The trigeminal neuralgia affects the nerve responsible for facial sensitivity. When this nerve is damaged or compressed, the pain appears suddenly and devastatingly. People describe it as electric shocks, stabbings, or explosions of fire in the face. The attack can last seconds or minutes, but the intensity is so extreme that it takes your breath away. Talking, chewing, smiling, or even feeling a light breeze on the face can trigger the pain. There is no prior warning. There is no way to anticipate it. For this reason, trigeminal neuralgia is known as the suicide disease, not out of exaggeration, but because of the psychological impact it produces. Living with the constant expectation of the next attack wears the mind down to dangerous limits. The treatments can help, but they rarely offer a definitive solution. The medications lose effectiveness over time. The surgeries carry significant risks, and even so, many people continue living with pain. This extreme case summarizes everything we have seen. The pain is not always proportional to the visible damage. It can be born from a microscopic failure and completely dominate a person's existence. When the whole of these pains is observed, it is clear that the human body has very precise limits. Crossing those limits does not produce heroism, it produces suffering. These stories do not seek to provoke fear. They seek to remind us of something essential. The pain is a signal, but it can also become a prison. And perhaps the final question is not which pain is the most intense, but how much we are willing to underestimate that which we have never had to feel.